The key to making sure your investments are on solid footing. Call them yourselves to diversify your portfolio. Call the Oxford Gold Group today to request your free precious metals investment guide, toll-free at 833-404-GOLD. Again, that number is 833-404-GOLD, the Oxford Gold Group.
Mike Lindell and the team at MyPillow are all about you having a great night's sleep. Comfortable sheets are the foundation of having an awesome night's rest. Their Giza sheets are as comfortable as they come.
Mike's latest incredible deal is on his Giza Dream sheets. You've heard us rave about these before. These sheets are made from the world's best cotton, Giza. They're ultra soft and breathable, yet extremely durable.
Right now, the Giza Dream sheets are back at their lowest price ever. These sheets are 60% off, coming in as low as $39.99 with the promo code Clay and Buck. Remember, all MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener special square to check out this flash sale on the Giza Dream sheets along with other limited-time offers. Enter promo code Clay and Buck or call 800-792-3269. That's 800-792-3269 for these great radio specials.
Your new News Talk headquarters.
You're on the air.
This could be very interesting.
The next level.
This is The Point.
Kona Brewing Company, Wenti Vineyards, and First Hawaiian Bank presents internationally renowned slack key master, Ledward Ka'apana. Ledward Ka'apana, founding member of the legendary Hawaiian music group Hui Ohana, joined Grammy-nominated and multiple Nahoku Hanohano Award winner Ledward Ka'apana for 2 magical nights.
Saturday, November 12th, the Tsubaki Tower, doors open at 6 p.m. And Sunday, November 13th, the Hotel Nico Guam, doors open at 5 p.m. Tickets are available at Ambrose and at the door. $40 in advance and $50 at the door.
Slack Key Master Ledward Ka'apana, live on Guam, Saturday, November 12th and Sunday, November 13th.
Presented by Kona Brewing Company, Wenti Vineyards, and First Hawaiian Bank. Special thanks to Choice Broadcasting, The Point, Star 101, and Boss 104.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Held without bail. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband on Friday. His court-appointed attorney, Adam Lipson, says it's a moot point.
The federal government has filed their own charges. They've placed a hold on Mr. DePape. If he's released from custody by San Francisco, he would be immediately taken into federal custody.
Lipson entered a not guilty plea on David DePape's behalf. U.S. Capitol Police had a live video feed from the security cameras at the Pelosi's home during Friday's break-in.
But nobody was watching it early Friday morning when her husband Paul was attacked. Officers were monitoring a live feed of a multitude of cameras, including surveillance of the Capitol complex. But sources tell Fox News that Capitol Police pay less attention to points away from Washington when a protectee is not home.
Fox's Trace Gallagher reports Speaker Pelosi was in Washington at the time of her husband's attack. North Korea has fired about a dozen missiles in the direction of South Korea early Wednesday, at least one of them landing near their maritime border, prompting residents of South Korea's Ulleungdo Island to hunker down in air raid shelters. South Korea retaliating by test firing its own missiles launched from aircraft. The North has threatened the U.S. and South Korea will pay what it calls the most horrible price in history for ongoing joint military drills, which it views as a prelude to invasion. The UN Security Council is scheduled to vote Wednesday on a resolution that would establish a commission to investigate Russia's claims that Ukraine and the U.S. are carrying out military biological activities in violation of international conventions preventing them. The U.S. could use its veto power to block the resolution. The Phillies blasted 5 home runs in Game 3 of the World Series Tuesday night to beat the Astros 7-0. Philadelphia now leads the series 2-1. America is listening to Fox News.
Hafa adai. I'm former Senator George Bomba.
Many of you remember my parents, George and Cecilia, with strong roots in both parties. I was also chief of staff under 2 Republican governors, including Felix Camacho. Working with Governor Liu and Lieutenant Governor Josh, I have seen up close the difference that they have made. Their fairness and compassion during COVID, and strong fiscal discipline that turned our island's economy around and helped our island become stronger. Their vision for the future is bright. A diversified economy, improved infrastructure, and more opportunities for our people. You could not find any team more honest, hardworking, caring, or competent than Lou and Josh. In Guam elections, it's not only about party, it's about the people. I urge my friends and family to vote for Lou and Josh so we can keep Guam moving forward.
This is Governor Louie Guerrero, and I approve this message.
Less than a week until the midterm elections, the legal maneuvering over mail-in ballots continues in a state that could decide which party controls the U.S. Senate.
An evenly split Pennsylvania Supreme Court ordering local election officials Tuesday to refrain from counting absentee ballots that have missing or incorrect dates on the envelope. 3 of the court's justices who were elected as Democrats said they believe excluding the ballots violates federal law, which says trivial errors shouldn't disqualify a ballot. But Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman of the National Republican Committee, which brought the lawsuit, is hailing the ruling as a, quote, massive victory for Pennsylvania voters and the rule of law. Pennsylvania State Department says voters who are concerned they may have made an error should contact their county election board. Sean Lanchel, Fox News.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman is locked in a tight race against Dr. Mehmet Oz for the Senate seat from which Pat Toomey is retiring. The Fox News Power Rankings rates the Pennsylvania Senate race as a toss-up. A former Connecticut state lawmaker admits to $1 million COVID relief fraud.
Michael DeMassa, a Democrat from West Haven who was a state rep and an aide to the city council, pled guilty to 3 counts of wire fraud conspiracy. Prosecutors say he ran several schemes involving a business partner, another business owner, and his wife to steal the funds using his position, which had the authority to approve the reimbursement of COVID-19 spending, to steal the money, some of which he spent at a casino in eastern Connecticut. DeMassa resigned from both positions after his arrest last year. His wife and his former business partner also pleaded guilty earlier this year. A 4th person charged in the scheme is awaiting trial. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
Seismologists at the U.S. Geological Survey report a magnitude 6.0 earthquake in the Pacific off the coast of San Diego. Some shaking detected as far north as San Francisco, but there has not been a tsunami warning issued. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Up a day, I'm Senator Chris Dueñas. We've gone from a viral pandemic to a drug epidemic. It is time to stand up the multi-agency unified law enforcement group to stem the flow of drugs and combat crime with force. MAULIC is not just another task force, it is a program focused on stopping the distribution of meth and opioids, as well as placing enough police officers patrolling our streets. It is time to make Guam MAULIC again.
Re-elect Senator Chris Dueñas. The fight continues.
I am Chris Dueñas, and I approve this message.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to nectac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I start the show that way every day. It puts listeners on notice as to where we go here. This is a constitutional, conservative, constitutionally oriented, conservative call-in talk show that values freedom, independence, the American way, the right to keep and bear arms, all of those things that we have in the past perhaps taken for granted, but things that the left is trying really hard to take away from us now. So if that's what you're interested in, you certainly came to the right place. And if it's not what you're interested in, even better. You came to the right place because you need some learning out there. And that's what we're here to provide, is a little bit of learning. I start out with Zemi Ikotni, which is the backwards play on words. Zemi Ikotni, translated literally, means press the meat. But the way I turn it around, it comes out as Meet the Press, just like on PMSNBC, only a lot better. And it used to be a really good feature of the program, but the Daily News hasn't written real editorials for a long, long time. About once a month they come up with a real one. The Post doesn't even try anymore. Today is a good example of the Daily News typical offering: some fluff, some softballs, some virtue signaling, some news stories recast as editorials, some feel-good stuff, but nothing with any bite, nothing with any edge, no real editorials. And here it is today. Our view: reflect, remember loved ones on All Souls Day. Had I not seen that, Jose, I wouldn't have had even the foggiest idea of what to do on All Souls Day. How about you?
It's a good thing I opened up to that page.
Yeah.
Gratitude indeed.
Religious faithful and those who hold fast to our island's cultural traditions will spend today in solemn reflection, remembering loved ones who are no longer with us. The All Souls Day occasion provides many, religious or not, with a moment to reconnect with the memories of the significant people in our lives, the ones who have inspired us in one way or another, to be who and where we are today. Known as the commemoration of all the faithful departed, on All Souls Day, the Catholic Church remembers and prays for the faithful departed. But All Souls Day on Guam is more than just a religious observation. For many, the practices and preparations leading up to this day are rooted in deep cultural traditions that give families time to honor the important people in their lives. Beyond this moment to honor the past, these time-honored traditions give families an opportunity to strengthen their connection to one another by coming together to remember and pray for mom, dad, grandparents, and all the people one can't imagine life without. Today, anyone driving throughout the island will see hundreds gathered at cemeteries, participating in masses alongside the grave sites of loved ones, a visible symbol that our island home in the Pacific, our connection to one another as family and friends, living or not, remains a core value of many families. One of this community's most unique qualities, shared by many visitors and former residents, is that here on Guam, strangers easily become family, a bond that lives strong long after the last get-together. Family is central to Guam. And as we drive out today to run errands, go to work, or attend All Souls Day services, let's reflect on the importance of those who have gone before us. So many have contributed to how far we have come today as individuals and as a community. May we remember with gratitude their contributions and sacrifices on All Souls Day. Jose, I've got some advice for the editorial writers down there at the Daily News. They ought to be out on the lookout for an abandoned filling station, abandoned gas station, move in, and hang up across and start their own church.
That was beautiful, Bob. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, here we go. Well, I know, from being a columnist myself, and I wrote, once upon a time, I wrote 2 columns a week for the Daily News. And no matter how full of it you are, sometimes you sit down at that keyboard, man, and think, oh, here it is, 10 o'clock at night, and I got to come up with something by tomorrow morning. And my fingers just are not doing the walking at all. I understand that. But it can only happen once in a while. It can't be every single day.
Especially with so much fodder going on right now in the campaign season.
Exactly.
This is embarrassing.
It is. It really is embarrassing. Yeah, I'm going to have to come up with a black star, I guess.
The publishers for both papers, I don't know if they're aware, their editors are not doing their job.
Exactly. Well, of course, I don't know if the Post even has a publisher anymore. For the last time I looked at the masthead, the Murphy girl is gone. Phil Leon Guerrero is the executive editor. Henry Titano is no longer the business manager. So I don't know who the publisher is anymore. And of course, we know at the Daily News, the publisher is Rindradi Sellis Limtiaco, and the owner is Kaleo Moylan. I wonder if he reads his own rag. I hope not, for his own sake. Okay, let's move from there to the card. And today, I'm going to start out with something on the national scene, the Air Force versus Russia. And for this, I had to call on the national defense guru in the Tall Tales think tank in the back room back here. You know who that is, right? And after that, I've got Ken, who is trying to soup up the Pacific Islands Time Store versus GMH. But he fell a little short today. And then I've got Jim Moylan versus Tony 19th floor Babauta. And it's a takeoff on Democratic Party versus Moylan. And then I've got the Civil Service Commission versus Tall Tales. I've still got to get to Malkin versus mainstream media. And I've got to spend a fair amount of time between now and next Tuesday on the senatorial candidates, because I want to give you my 2 cents worth on every single one of them. For some of them, it's going to be a real struggle to try to pull together 2 cents worth of value, but I'll do the best I can. Okay, the Air Force. And there's a story in the Post. Air Force deploys warplanes to Guam. Guam is hosting more aircraft from the Air Force. The military has disclosed in several news releases. Although the exact number was not shared, now here's the news. Several A-10C Thunderbolt II aircraft have been temporarily deployed to Anderson from Moody Air Force Base in Georgia. The movement is part of what officials called a dynamic force employment operation, which was described in a release as a way for Pacific Air Forces to exercise their ability to generate combat air power from dynamic force elements while continuing to move, maneuver, and sustain these elements in geographically separated and contested environments. In other words, they don't want the other side to know where all our stuff is. We're not going to park it all in Anderson and say, here it is, guys. Their deployment comes about a week after an undisclosed number of B-1 bombers from South Dakota were sent to Guam. Now, the rest of the article gets into B-1 bombers and, let's see, B-52s and that sort of thing. But the thing that I'm really interested in is this. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Going back to the A-10Cs, this is what the article says. The planes known as Warhogs use a high-powered Gatling gun as their primary weapon, but are also typically armed with laser-guided rockets and AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles.
What do they call them? Is that a typo?
Warhogs? Absolutely, yeah. They're not warhogs, they're warthogs. Warthogs.
Oh, and there it is. Yeah, warhogs.
Warhogs. Well, I suppose someone looked at that and said, what's a warthog? I'd never heard of a warthog. I think they must mean warhogs because they are for fighting. Yeah. No, it's just dead wrong. And it shows a complete ignorance of what they're writing about, a total ignorance, because the A-10 Warthog is totally different from all of the other aircraft they're bringing over.
It's pretty well known.
It is. And the A-10 Warthog is called the A-10 Warthog because it's so ugly, like a warthog. And its mission is close air support of infantry. That's what it does. It's a jet plane, but it can fly very slowly. And as the article says, it has a really good machine gun, a Gatling gun, and these other armaments. So what it does, it gets to the forward edge of the battle area, and where troops are trying to advance in opposition to other troops, it comes in low with that Gatling gun and mows down the other guys. It's just totally different from a B-52 or a B-1 or a B-2, etc. Those are strategic weapons. You know, you're way the hell up in the air and you drop bombs on people. But the Warthog is totally different. So when I saw this, I said, what do we make of this? Well, first of all, I don't ever remember in all the times that I've been following stuff like this that we've ever had A-10 Warthogs on this island. And of course, since World War II, we've only had the 515th Ordnance Company down at Naval Mag for a little while, you know, maybe a couple hundred guys, and the Army veterinarian like Tom Poole. There isn't any Army on the island. There hasn't been any Army on the island. And there would have probably been no necessity to have the A-10 Warthog here. But if the A-10 Warthog is here, then you have to speculate. The plan must be to use that A-10 Warthog in accordance with its mission, which is to provide close air support for infantry. Now, where could that possibly come into play? Ukraine. So is there something in the books, a contingency plan that said we may become so active in the Ukraine that we're going to send these Warthogs over there to provide close air support for the Ukrainian and or U.S. infantry? I can't help but speculate on that. Because, in my estimation, having A-10 Warthogs on the ground here is without precedent. And it can't be because the pilots of those planes need a few extra hours in their logbooks. Okay, I got somebody in the green room here. Maybe it's an A-10 pilot. It's Shep, a former fighter pilot. All right. Tell us about it, Shep.
How you doing, Bob? Great show today.
Thank you, Shep.
You nailed it on the head when you said the A-10 is quite different than anything we've seen out here before. It's highly specialized. And, yeah, I'm an F-15 guy. I'm an Eagle guy, if you can be an ex-Eagle guy. And I've rubbed elbows with plenty of Warthog guys. anyways, F stands for fighter, and the B and the B-52 stands for bomber, and the A is for attack aircraft, surface attack. So you hit it on the head when you said their primary mission is to support troops close in contact, and many times they'll work with forward air controllers or controllers on the ground to guide them in. But they're relatively slow. They don't have afterburners. They don't go supersonic. The A7 used to be referred to as a slug, which I believe stood for slow, ugly, whatever. So I just throw that in there that you're steering your audience in the right direction. They don't fly great distances. They don't fly fast, but they are the answer to your prayers if you're in close contact and you need help from above.
Okay, well, thanks for chiming in. I get it right every once in a while, Shep. It's always good to hear from you. It's been a while since you chimed in. I'm glad you're back with us.
Yeah, I'm still out there about it, and I'll add something else in there. I could talk about this all day, but I'll just say that the F-15, we had a lot of radar-guided munitions air to air. So that aircraft was built around the radar, and the A-10 has a 30-millimeter cannon in the nose. That's a pretty big cannon, and so they used to say the A-10 was built around the cannon, and of course the F-16, as every fighter pilot knows, was built around the ejection seat. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Have a nice show, Bob.
Thanks.
Good to listen to you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, well, very good. Thank you very much for chiming in on that one. And I see this as something that's rather serious, even though the folks over at the Post don't even know what the name of a warthog is. Okay, next on the card, I've got Ken versus Ken in the Pacific Island Times versus GMH. And Ken really laid out some interesting stuff yesterday, and he sent me an email, he sent me a WhatsApp of documents. And let me see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, and what he sent was a revised Articles of Organization for MedHealth Solutions, LLC. And I couldn't print it. A little tip, if you want to send stuff for Tall Tales, stuff for my edification, send me an email. You can do a whole lot more with an email than you can with a WhatsApp. Because if I get a WhatsApp, a lot of times what I got to do with it is forward it to my email, and then when I forwarded what Ken sent, it wouldn't print right. Yeah. So if you're saying, hey, we don't know what your email is, Bob, well, here's the secret. Every lawyer on this island has his contact information posted on the Guam Bar Association website. So Google Guam Bar Association, go to members, and you can find my email, you can find my phone number, you can find my shoe size, my cap size, the VIN number of my Rocky. What else would you like to know? It's all there. So I pulled nothing out of this document that Ken sent, but he did have a legend on the bottom of it of some of the really interesting things that he also had, and I'd really like to see those because, on this show, since we have a resident lawyer, we like to go through the law and order routine on documents and sometimes extract things from the documents that the person who sent them hadn't noticed. So, Ken, if you could send me those documents, I'd really appreciate it. All right, next on the card, I should have done this first, I guess. It's the regular feature of the show. And let's take a short break and we'll come back to this.
Reggae in Paradise. Let's vibe out to some of the hottest Irie vibes on all your playlists. Join the vibes on November 19th at Paseo Stadium. It's on a Saturday, and we have an amazing lineup of artists. Mix Plate, Bubba B, Fantasia, The John Dank Show,
Still running away.
Kimmy A. Minor, Lickle Jordy, High Water, and Rebel Sojas. Get your tickets now at guamtime.net. What are you waiting for? Presenting sponsors, big thanks to Riga Royal, IT&E, White Claw, GVB, Gasolina, Linda's Diner, and Empire Media and Entertainment. Saturday, November 19th, Reggae in Paradise. We'll see you there.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Okay, so I skipped over the Public Law 3634 portion of the agenda, and I shouldn't have, because I got a classic example here. Here is the notice from the Serve Guam Commission, Office of the Governor, quarterly board of commission meeting. Now, Governor, you need to have people who know what they're doing around you. There's no such thing as a board of commission meeting. I mean, you can't even get the title right on your notice. Wednesday, November 9, 11:30, SCG conference room. Now, I wonder where that is, the SCG conference room. It's on the second floor. GCIC building by video conference and live stream via SGC Facebook website. I guess that's the Serve Guam Commission. And then there's the stuff for the Zoom link. And then the agenda, call to order, roll call. 2, approval of minutes. 3, executive director report. 4, subcommittee reports. 5, new business. That's it. 6, old business. 7, next scheduled meeting. 8, adjournment. So this is in the governor's office. Now, if the governor doesn't care about this stuff, why should anybody else? I think what we do is we just take somebody and say, you do the agenda, and the somebody doesn't listen to Tall Tales, doesn't read the newspaper, and just takes something that somebody else did 3 years ago and, changes happy to glad and puts it out. And here we are, and it's gonna really hurt.
Maybe they expect us to FOIA that agenda.
Maybe I'll do that.
to do
Not
that.
a bad idea. Yeah.
I wanted a clarification while you were gone about what needs to happen when they put executive session on the agenda, or is that not allowed on the agenda?
Yeah, it can be on the agenda, and if council is going to be in the agenda, then they have to have a vote, a majority vote on the record to go into executive session. They have to have the lawyer's statement under oath that the executive session is warranted and is within the confines of the law. They have to have a court reporter present during the executive session. They have to record the minutes, and the minutes become public documents 6 months after the end of the meeting. That's what they have to do. Now, if the lawyer's not there, then they have to cite the statutory authority for the executive session. And there are, as I recall, 4. Like if they're talking PEMRA business, talking about negotiating with the union, you got to understand why they don't want to do that in open session, et cetera. But, I think the constructional preference for some of the agencies is we'll always put that in there in case we decide we want one during. You can't do that.
No impromptu sessions.
No impromptu executive sessions. And anybody who's a challenge, anybody who wants to enact some good legislation, that's a fertile field because it's abused all the time. Okay, next we go on to the Democrats allege, as you were, Moylan versus Tony Babauta. And I touched on this yesterday, but the Post came out with a little bit more in-depth workup, and there's a back and forth between Jim Moylan and Tony Babauta that I think is worthwhile. Senator Jim Moylan, who's looking to be the next delegate to the U.S. House of Representatives, was accused by the Democrat Party of Guam of violating. Now, the Democrat Party would have been, was the Democrat Party of Montana accused him?
Possibly, and that's why we had the clarification.
Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't know. It could have been the Democrat
Just
Party.
being thorough.
Yeah, being complete. Of violating a federal law regarding clear and conspicuous notice of outdoor displays. The Democrat Party recently filed a formal notice with the Federal Election Commission in Guam's congressional race, which shows that Moylan's campaign is in violation of federal law, stated a release issued by the Democrats on October 31. Quote, although this seems like a technical issue, it is a clear violation of federal law, said Tony Babauta. The chair of the Democrat Party. The rules for federal elections are different from local rules, and candidates are expected to comply. The fact that the Moylan campaign is not in compliance with federal requirements raises questions about fitness for federal office. And he's right. You know, if you can't handle a little stuff, it's once again, my example of not being able to make the tray table on the seat in the plane in front of me stay up when I'm done eating. If they can't even do the tray table right, what are they doing with the engines and the navigation equipment? Okay, now they go on to say the disclaimer notice must state that the communication was paid for by the authorized committee according to the FCC. Now, you see this all the time. Disclaimer. You know what a disclaimer is? A disclaimer is, I don't have anything to do with this. That's a disclaimer. As an example, the views shared by our hosts and guests on this show, you know, are not endorsed, adopted, sponsored, etc. by the state. That's a disclaimer. But what they're talking about is an attribution. This sign was posted by, in my case, what I had to put on the bottom of my signs was this sign paid for by E. Gangs Klitzkie. Necesito un tungo y fino tomorrow para y palabra en E. Gangs Klitzkie. But anyhow, that's an attribution. It's not a disclaimer. If they're saying Moylan didn't post any disclaimers, that's fine. You don't have to. Can you imagine a political candidate coming along and saying, the views expressed on this sign are not my views, and I take no responsibility? That would be a disclaimer. But you see it all the time. And, of course, everybody knows that you've got to put a disclaimer on the bottom of your signs.
Yeah, so you notice that paragraph is not in quotes.
No.
So that has to be the reporter.
It is the reporter. Who he understands about disclaimers, because everybody knows, right?
They came from the same glossary as war hogs.
Exactly. The disclaimer notice must state that the communication was paid for by the authorized committee, according to the FEC. In printed communications, the disclaimer must be of sufficient size to be clearly readable by the recipient of the communication, and the print must have a reasonable degree of color contrast between the background and the printed statement. So, first of all, I got to rag on the reporter. Know what you're writing about before you sit down at the keyboard, and don't go with everybody knows. Here's a quote from Jim. The timing is very suspect, according to the committee to elect James Moylan, which told the Daily Post. No, the committee told the Post this, not a person, but the committee. That the allegation amounts to political desperation as this comes a week prior to the island's 2022 general election. Moylan's campaign objected to the Democrat Party in a statement issued to media outlets Tuesday. While we appreciate the concerns of the chairman of the Democrat Party of Guam, Mr. Tony Babauta, where he indicates that the disclaimers, even Moylan doesn't know the difference, on our campaign signs are not clear and conspicuous, we disagree. We also question the timing of the chairman's statement, which obviously represents the sentiments of our opponent. Our campaign has had signs placed throughout the island as far back as April of this year, and only now, with a week left to go before the general election, they elect to raise their concern. Oh, how unfair. They've been doing it wrong for so long. Couldn't have they waited until after the election to spring this? So I guess Jim Moylan has invented a disclaimer statute of limitations. If you run a political sign without a disclaimer long enough, then the other party is disabled from challenging it, because he should have challenged it right away. If Jim is not disqualified because he doesn't know how to put an attribution clause on his signs, if that doesn't do it, this kind of logic certainly does. The fact that he's been doing it wrong for a long, long time, and now just a week before the election, you decide to bring it up. The campaign team responded to the Democrat Party statement like this. The campaign finds it very interesting that an individual with a very questionable history in holding a federal position, in which he resigned from due to questionable practices, is now making an opinion on who is fit to sit in a federal position. Yes, Mr. Babauta, Jim is very much fit for federal office. Our campaign is very proud of Senator Jim Moylan, who has worked very hard since the campaign commenced in March to earn his votes. Unlike certain candidates, Jim makes himself accessible regardless of the time or day of the week to spend time talking to constituents and hearing their concerns. This is the very commitment he will bring with him if elected to Congress, and the hard work, energy, and vigor he displays as a candidate will be exactly what our people can expect from him if they elect Jim as their next delegate. Additionally, Babauta pointed out that Moylan was in violation of other additional requirements, such as radio ads that are running in Guam. None of the radio ads that Moylan campaign is currently running contain the FEC paid-for requirement. Guam radio stations may not be aware of this because it's not a local requirement. However, as a candidate for federal office, James Moylan should be aware of the federal campaign rules and laws. Moylan's campaign is unaware of what radio ads the Democrats are talking about. If not addressed immediately, the Democrat Party will be filing a separate notice of violation with the FEC, Babauta added. So here we have Jim, who doesn't know the difference between an attribution and a disclaimer, not putting the necessary attributions on his signs for months and months and months. And then when Tony Babauta comes along and says, hey, you can't do that, Jim, that's a violation of the law, it reflects on your fitness, Moylan invokes a self-created statute of limitations that if you didn't mention it then, you can't mention it now. and then unleashes an ad hominem attack on Tony Babauta. Now, if Tony Babauta is correct, if what he says is right, he could have the blackest heart in Lower Solovia, and it doesn't detract from what he said. I didn't think I'd ever find myself sticking up for Tony Babauta, but, you know.
I'm glad there's a glass wall between us now, Bob, because I'm going to have to ask you to wash behind your ears now.
Yeah, so, yeah, Tony, and then, of course, if you're going to do it, Jim, do it right. You know, there was the Washington thing, and then you skipped over the 19th floor, which is just as bad and cut from the same kind of cloth. So,
what is interesting, I don't know if you caught Ray's show this morning, but our own Bob Kelly called in. He's an FCC guy.
Yeah.
And he says something about glass houses because it seems that a lot of candidates, including the Democrat candidates, are in violation of local law in the way they attribute their radio ads. But, yeah, when it comes to these types of back and forths, it's almost inside baseball for the candidates and the parties, and I'm really curious how this story got so big. But the story that Pacific Island Times is running is nowhere seen in any other media at all. But it does come back to the story, the original story. You're right. The little things matter, and when you can't follow those kind of instructions, then that's when you get those violations that everybody scrutinizes in D.C., especially the one that has to do with the stamps.
The franking privilege.
Because there might be a violation in this since Jim Moylan likes to write letters.
You know, there was a guy named Dan Rostenkowski, representative from Chicago, who ran the Senate Bank and was in charge of franking privileges, and he screwed them both up, and it cost him his seat. Now, this is way back, you know, in the early 70s, but yeah, it's, you know, if you the glass houses analogy is of course correct, but there's another analogy along the same lines, and that is the farther up the flagpole you climb, the farther your ass sticks out. So if you're way up there, you better make sure, you know, that you got your trousers pulled up to the proper height, your belt is buckled, or you're wearing suspenders or something like that. And obviously Jim hasn't done that. And, you know, when Bob Kelly comes along and talks about something like this, ordinarily you can take it to the bank, because Kelly doesn't talk about stuff unless he knows about it. Yeah. I have another, well, that I skipped over, another agenda here. It's the Mayor's Council, item 9, new business, but don't tell us what the new business is. You think Angel Sablon at over $100,000 a year could at least get a proper agenda out for us? Okay, let's see here. So I can go back to, I hope.
Maybe low expectations. They're not going to get another quorum, so the meeting's going to get canceled, Bob.
Yeah. You know what? I could now go on to Michelle Malkin, except I left it at home. Doggone it. I'll have to do it tomorrow. Okay, let's take a short break here.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
I'm Dr. Sam Abini Young. I've always believed in the value of education, effort, humility, and accountability. As your senator, I will prioritize the training and education of students and workers to support the rebuilding of our economy. I understand our community's need for affordable living and housing and the need for aggressive drug enforcement to stop its serious impact. And there's a need for smarter and smaller government, like a part-time legislature that works for Guam and having more efficient GovGuam departments. Please support me with one of your votes for senator to work for you on these issues. I'm Dr. Sam Abini Young.
Paid for by friends of Sam Abini Young. Joe Ramos, Treasurer.
Okay, so next item on the card then is senatorial candidates versus senatorial candidates. And I mentioned this before, but I don't think the senatorial candidates understand that they're in a zero-sum game. There are 15 seats. There are 30 people running for 15 seats. Half of them will get in, half of them won't. And therefore, a degree of competitiveness, in my estimation, is necessary for success. You have to show that you bring something to the table that the other candidates don't. The other candidates mean on the other side and on your side too, because you want to be the one that pulls in the votes. So I'm going to spend some time here on the workup that the Daily News did, and I'm going to give you my thumbnail sketch on each one of these based on what they put in the paper. I start out with Tina Rose Mooney Barnes, and I hit this earlier when I mentioned that, you know, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 categories of questions that are asked. First of all, experience. Second, what is the first bill you want to pass? First, experience. Second, public service. Third, what first bill you want to pass. Fourth, what is your stance on abortion? So Tina pulls out, the heavy artillery in the very beginning of her piece. Experience. First experience. Law Office of Brooks and Klitzkie. Yeah, that's pretty hard to beat, right? Yeah, at the law office of Brooks and Klitzkie, we handed out diplomas, nice engraved diplomas like you get when you graduated from college or something. Robert Klitzkie School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. So Tina did that. So that's good experience. And then she was executive director of the South Pacific Games, deputy of Department of Integrated Services, a senator in the 27th, 29th, 30th, 31st, and 33rd legislature. Now, in the 30th, she got sucked up in the Barnes, in the 31st, she got sucked up in the Wampat 10. Yeah. But it's interesting. I don't know of, up until very recently, I'd never heard of anybody that gotten beat and then was able to make a comeback. It didn't happen very often. Tina did it twice. Yeah. So she's kind of like the ever-ready battery, the cat with 9 lives. The first bill she wants to pass is, in my next term, my focus will be to expand opportunities for our people by increasing, words. I think she must have had Kamala Harris help her out with the verbiage on this, because she used a lot of words and really didn't say much of anything. In the third paragraph, she gets down to the Transshipment Task Force. And then, what is your stance on abortion? What measures, if any, would you support to restrict access to abortion? Now, this is a good question, and I'm gonna lay it out right now where my head is, where my heart is, where my biases are. To me, it comes down to one simple question, and I'll give you the answer to the question before I give you the question. Here's the answer to the question. Never. Here's the question. When is it okay to kill a helpless, innocent human? And my answer to that is never. I don't care about the autonomy of a woman's body or any of the rest of that stuff. I think that it's very necessary that any society, in order to survive, has to place a high value on human life, much higher than on convenience or social justice or things like that. So here's Tina Rose's stance. this issue is too complex to answer with a simple yes or no, pro-life or pro-choice. Okay, you lose. So that's a game stopper for me. I can't vote for anyone who won't answer that question because a non-answer is abortion's okay. Then we have Frank Blas. He also worked for Brooks and Klitzkie, but he doesn't highlight it in his experience. I don't know if he sees that that experience would be a detriment to him, or he forgot, or anyhow, he doesn't mention it. First bill he wants to pass, I want to be able to continue to work the work that I want to be able to continue to do the work that I'm continuing to work on this 36th legislature. I think we could probably say that what Frank is really big on here, Jose, continuity. Yeah. With my background in law enforcement and also my background in business, I want to continue to work on ways to reduce crime that we've got and then build an economy that can be more resilient. So what's the first bill you want to pass? You know, that would have a number on it. It would have a title. It would be something that would be capable, that someone could read and say, Frank Blas wants to license handguns, outlaw dogs, increase the penalty for dealing methamphetamine, not this word salad. Unless Frank, you got an ambition, you want to run for Vice President of the United States. What's your standpoint? What's your stance on abortion? I believe in the sanctity of life, and I believe that all life begins in the moment of conception. I know that right now there are conversations with regard to accessibility and prohibition. I would like to see an end to any type of abortion. Okay, if you just stop there. But no. However, I have to be cognizant of conversations and the necessity to work with differing points of view, for lack of better term, a compromise, so that we can save lives of more innocent children from being senselessly killed. So a compromise like, we'll only abort half of the babies that come to abortionists. That would be a compromise, right? Some things you don't compromise on. You know, if for instance, if somebody came in here with a really sharp knife and a gun and said, Bob, I want to cut off all your fingers, but I'll deal. What's your proposal? I would say, well, you could cut them all off, but I'm going to need the middle fingers for my job. No. Some things you just don't compromise on. Either you are or you aren't.
It makes you wonder, should they have asked the question, does anybody here know what an abortion is?
Good question.
Because I don't think they're answering to that.
No, they're not.
They're answering to the politics of the issue.
Really. Then we have Will Parkinson. Now, also, the last question here is, what's the important thing that GovGuam can do to help customers deal with inflation? The answers are hardly worth the time to read.
Does he mention his dad?
Frank did. Yeah. No, he doesn't. Good for him. Yeah. Okay, Will Parkinson. He's a pawnbroker specializing in gold, silver, and diamonds. That's great. That's my kind of guy. You know, he understands what the free market is all about, and he knows the value of the free market in setting prices. Experience: 9 years as a federal wildland firefighter out of the Clearwater National Forest. 10 years running a pawn shop on Guam. Public service, cannabis activist, patient representative, Cannabis Control Board. That doesn't ring my bell. What is the first bill you would pass? A permanent unemployment insurance program. Okay, that is an answer to the question. And I'd have to say it's a credible answer. Talking a little bit about unemployment insurance. We're the only jurisdiction in the United States that doesn't have unemployment insurance. The way unemployment insurance works is this. A tax is collected from employers and sometimes from employees. The tax is paid into a fund, and when a person loses his job, not because he got fired, but because he got laid off, he can start drawing money from that fund. Not as much as he made when he was working, etc. So it's, it's part of the New Deal approach to leveling out the peaks and valleys in an economy. I can't say that as a matter of economics, I think it's a good idea. I can understand why Parkinson would come forward with it. And the last couple of years, probably indicated how it could help out in a situation like we're in. Because for all of the states, when it came time for the national government to dump money into the state coffers, it was really easy. They just dumped it into the unemployment fund and passed enabling legislation, and the mechanism was all there. Our Director of Labor, David Del Isolo, had to create the entire mechanism. So if for no other reason, then we might be in the same situation again. It might be a good idea to create an unemployment insurance situation here on the island, although it's not the hill that I'm going to die on, that's for sure. He goes on to say, his stance on abortion, I am staunchly pro-choice. Okay? End of story for William Don Parkinson, or Will Parkinson. I'm going to take a call here before I go on to the next candidate. And Frenchie wants to talk about the A10 Warthog and Jim Moylan's ads. Yeah, okay, Frenchie. We got
Maybe call back.
We got about 2 minutes before the big halftime show. So right after the halftime show, we'll come back to you, and then we'll go back to the candidates. And in the meantime, I'm going to cruise through Facebook here. I see a post by Colin Clark. Harvey Egna, because media are a bunch of Lulu lovers, disclaimer, bought and paid for by the committee to re-elect Lou. And, anyhow, I have to let it go there because we're heading for the halftime show.
Is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
A potential political comeback. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to be edging toward victory in the national elections in Israel, with nearly two-thirds of the ballots showing that he and his political allies are poised to achieve a stable majority in the country's parliament, which has been mostly deadlocked for the last 3 years. The votes are still being counted Wednesday morning in Israel, the results not yet final. 6 days before the U.S. midterm elections, the latest Fox News power ranking buoying GOP optimism.
The latest Fox News power rankings indicate shifts largely in favor of Republicans. In the Senate, the toss-up races of Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada remain, but Florida's Senate seat went from lean to likely Republican, and Washington's Senate seat has moved from solid to likely Democrat. In the House, it's now down to 26 toss-up seats as 7 seats move out of the toss-up category and toward Republicans, including North Carolina's 7th as well as Oregon's 5th. Another 5 seats moved from lean Democrat to toss-up, including California Congresswoman Katie Porter's seat, though 5 seats shifted in favor of Democrats.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. President Biden campaigned yesterday for Democrat candidates in Florida, warning if elected, Republicans will try and repeal some of the bills that he's signed into law.
It's reckless, it's irresponsible, will make inflation worse
will badly hurt working class and middle class Americans.
Republicans argue the Biden administration's spending is what's made inflation worse. A not guilty plea has been entered for David Dupapp, the man accused of the hammer attack on Paul Pelosi. He's been ordered held without bond. Fox News has learned Capitol Police has a live video feed from the security cameras at the Pelosi home, but officers weren't watching them closely Friday because Speaker Pelosi was in Washington at the time. The flashing police lights finally drew their attention to the feed. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Half a day, I'm Senator Chris Dueñas. We've gone from a viral pandemic to a drug epidemic. It is time to stand up the multi-agency unified law enforcement group to stem the flow of drugs and combat crime with force. MAULIC is not just another task force, it is a program focused on stopping the distribution of meth and opioids, as well as placing enough police officers patrolling our streets. It is time to make Guam MAULIC again.
Re-elect Senator Chris Dueñas. The fight continues.
I am Chris Dueñas, and I approve this message.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham must answer questions from a Georgia grand jury investigating alleged election interference.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is scheduled to appear for a Georgia grand jury on November 17th after losing a bid to block the subpoena at the U.S. Supreme Court. Justices did not note any public dissent in the ruling, leaving in place lower court rulings that compelled Graham to testify in an investigation about possible illegal interference in the 2020 election by former President Trump. Graham argued the Constitution's speech and debate clause shields him from being forced to testify, and the court did note there are limits and questions Graham would have to answer. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
In a statement released late last night, the White House says President Biden will do everything within his power to reduce U.S. gun violence, emphasizing that thoughts and prayers alone are not resolving the issue. Two Newark, New Jersey police officers are recovering from gunshot wounds they suffered on the job yesterday.
Investigators say this all started when two officers were responding to a 911 call. A local woman thought she had spotted a man in her building who was wanted for a previous shooting. So police showed up, didn't find anyone at first, but as they were leaving, they apparently encountered this suspect. Gunfire was then exchanged, where one of the officers was hit in the neck, the other in the leg. Initially, there were reports the suspect was firing from the top of a building using a long gun. That turned out not to be the case.
Fox's Jeff Paul reports police are still searching for the gunman. In Houston, police are still looking for the person who shot and killed the rapper known as Takeoff on Monday night.
This great city, with our great citizens, with our police department, we will find who's responsible for it.
Police Chief Troy Finner, Kersnick Ball was shot and killed reportedly during a dice game at a bowling alley. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Reggae in Paradise. Let's vibe out to some of the hottest Irie vibes on all your playlists. Join the vibes on November 19th at Paseo Stadium. It's on a Saturday and we have an amazing lineup of artists. Mixplate, Bubba B, Fantasia, The John Dank Show, Kimmy A. Minor, Lico Jordy, High Water, and Rebel Sojas. Get your tickets now at guamtime.net. What are you waiting for? Presenting sponsors, big thanks to Riga Royal, IT&E, White Claw, GVB, Gasolina, Linda's Diner, and Empire Media and Entertainment.
The night away.
Saturday, November 19th, Reggae in Paradise. We'll see you there.
Okay, so here we go. Second half of Tall Tales after another great halftime show directed by none other than Jose, the producer of Tall Tales. And we've got Frenchie waiting in the green room to come on the air and tell us about warthogs. Go ahead, Frenchie.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm going to disagree with you on the warthog on Guam. You're right, the warthog is a ground support aircraft. It's pretty slow. I think its fastest speed is 450 knots. So it's a subsonic ground attack aircraft. And it wouldn't make sense to deploy it on Guam if it was for Ukraine, because they are from a base in Georgia, and Ukraine is only 5,500 miles from Georgia, while Guam is 6,700 miles away from Ukraine. And we would need to deploy them. We would need to overflight over unfriendly countries and territories. So I don't see that being the objective, but that could be very much. And and before I go, the Air Force are already pre-positioned other aircraft in Poland and Romania who are directly on the border with Ukraine. So the Air Force has pre-deployed aircrafts, part of the NATO pre-positioning of troops in that area. But the message, I think, for the A-10 is more about Taiwan, because Taiwan, the A-10 has a 2,200-mile transit range, which is well within the reach of Taiwan. And while it has only a 250 nautical mile combat range, because they use a lot more fuel in combat situations. But so it would make more sense pre-positioning A-10s on Guam to intervene in Taiwan, where they could be in Yashan Air Base in Hualien, which is heavily defended and where the planes are parked underground in the mountain. So that's where I would think that the message is being sent, especially after the end of the CCP meeting that saw Xi being reconducted as the leader of China for another 10 years. So as far as the Jim Moylan and Babauta, I think they both miscommunicate as far as their choice of words and so on. And then I think that Bobby Chingri probably got a little overheated against the personal attacks against Jim. But so I will agree that they both do not communicate very well. But then at the same time, that article in the Post had a big picture of a billboard from, which is supposed to be from Jim Moylan's campaign, and they say it's from its Facebook page or Instagram page. I forgot, but Jim Moylan on the show this morning said that picture was photoshopped. And if he's right that it was photoshopped, I'd like to know how the Post got a hold of that picture, because if it has been photoshopped, then this picture is part of an attack campaign, which, you know, the Democrats are very good at doing. So those were my reflection on this, and that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, well, very interesting, and I appreciate your analysis of the moving of the A-10 here, and what you say makes a lot of sense. The Warthog may be destined for Taiwan. Now, of course, there's another dimension here too, and that is when it comes to geopolitical military strategy, it's kind of like a chessboard. So, you know, if you move A-10s to Guam, then you expect the other side to make a counter move, and it can be very elaborate.
Yeah, but the A-10 would be a perfect tool for attacking troops trying to land, or even airborne troops that have been put in the back theater in a confined area. It's a perfect tool to do that, and they have proven this over and over again. And you know, it would make sense strategically for the Air Force to preposition on Guam if there was a kind of a signal sending for Taiwan. But I don't see it going for Ukraine. Ukraine already has a lot of Air Force assets that have been deployed both in Romania and Poland. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Frenchie. And then tell me a little bit more about the photoshopping of Jim Moylan's sign picture.
Well, the picture, if you have the paper with you, the picture definitely is shows that the qualifying phrase at the bottom, this is paid by the committee to elect Jim Moylan or something like this, is missing, definitely missing on the picture. And Jim Moylan was saying that it had been photoshopped by parties unknown. What is interesting is that the Post chose not to investigate anymore and just say, oh, it comes from his Instagram page. So somebody is not telling us the truth, and we'll figure it out after the election, I guess. But this is a typical last-minute attack that the Democrats are very well known for. It's not unusual. And I think Bobby Shingri probably lost his cool a little bit on that thing. And but, you know, Babada is a dirty player anyway. That's why they put him in charge. And it reveals one thing, is that the campaign is a lot closer than what the Democrats would like, because they're getting desperate on many levels.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Frenchie. As usual, good insights into topics of the day. See you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Did you want to add something on that, Jose?
Yeah, just our crack investigative department right behind the intelligence department.
Back
right
here in the back room.
Right.
We call it the Skunk Works, but go on.
Right, and that would be my iPhone. I just went to the Instagram account and saw the picture in question. Now, there is in black writing an attribution, but I don't know what it says because it's not very clear. It's just the nature of Instagram. And then when you do go to the picture that's in the Post, that's on the digital version of the Post, you don't see the black there. And actually, there's a lot of light blue. So whether it's photoshopped or not, it's unquestioned, but it is curiously very light in the corner where the original Instagram picture, there is dark lettering that you can make out, but you can't read it because of the distance from the picture. So I don't know if that's what he was talking about, but if I don't know if Jim Moylan was talking about that being photoshopped. However, isn't there language that says that the attribution needs to be prominent and a different, what's the word called, contrast from the
contrasting color.
Contrasting color. So I don't know how they define that, but That's what's it is interesting that the picture is quite different from the one on Instagram.
Well, then there's another dimension here, and that is I don't remember seeing the picture in the paper, but there's always an attribution of the photo, like Guam Daily Post photo or Jim Moylan photo or whatever. And if the Post presented it as one of their photos and they got it from somebody else,
they attribute it to James Moylan's Instagram account.
Okay.
On the photo itself. Yeah.
Okay, the one that actually ran in the paper.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Jose, and thank the guys back in Intel for that, huh?
They're working hard.
Yes, sir.
Working hard for you.
for our people.
Our listeners, yes.
Yeah, our people. Okay, so let's go back to the candidates. Next on line here is Michelle Hope Titano, a Republican from Assen. This kind of reminds me of something, Jose. Back in the day, there was a company down in Assen that repaired automobiles, but only, dents and scrapes and scratches and painting and stuff like that. You know what the name of that company was?
I do not.
It was the Assen Body Shop. True.
that woke Joe up.
That was a true story. Yeah. Yeah, that caused him to chuckle a little bit, right? Yeah, so Michelle's from Assen, and she's a realtor. She's owned and managed 12 small loan and check cashing stores in 8 states, held sales and marketing and business management positions in private, nonprofit arenas and stateside as well. She's a managing facilitator of Guahan Aftercare, a faith-based voluntary program for those formerly incarcerated. She assisted in standing up our Assen Maina Neighborhood Watch program and continues today as a block captain. Currently a lion. Ooh.
Roar.
A lion with the Guam Harmony Lions Club, a pride of lions, and serves as a board member with the Guam Bible Fellowship Church. Public Service Assistant President of Guam Housing Corporation. Chief Protocol Officer, Secretary to Governor's Legal Counsel, Office of the Governor Staff Assistant, Director of Decolonization, Special Projects Coordinator, Guam EPA, Special Projects Coordinating Administrator of Fair Employment Practices Agency, Guam. Let's see, former chairwoman of the Guam Parole Board. Now, that perhaps accounts for her interest in former prisoners. Let's see. Some more information about the Parole Board. Interesting credentials, a lot of interesting commercial experience and government experience. First bill. A bill to supplement the core curriculum of our schools to include engaging parents and children as a family unit and teaching both life and work skills needed in the rapidly changing workforce. Skills such as parenting, family literacy, trades, information, technology, hospitality, culinary, and the arts, to name a few. That sounds like an awful lot. Okay. And, not so bad up to this point, but she loses it all right here.
I get you here.
Yeah. What is your stance on abortion? I wish it didn't exist, all of it. If wishing would make it so.
She wishes the stances don't exist? That abortion doesn't exist?
I think she means abortion.
That's what I think.
We want people in the legislature who do more than grab the wishbone out of the chicken at Sunday dinner and hope that they get the long piece.
Well, you make an interesting point there. They're running for legislator, so in context, you would think that the answer would be in context of legislation.
Exactly. Next, we've got Therese Tetlahi. Therese is already 58 years old. Looks pretty good for 58. She graduated from the Academy of Our Lady, Creighton University in Nebraska, same place her dad went to law school. And she graduated from UCLA School of Law in 1989. She's a small business owner, attorney, University of Guam professor, senator, etc. What is the first bill you want to pass? I have passed several important bills this term, and I'm working hard to get the remaining bills that I introduced and passed before the end of the term. If these do not pass in time and I am reelected, I will continue to work to expand cost coverage on Guam for assisted senior living, to license paramedics, and to ensure negligent or abusive providers are held accountable. I am also working on new legislation to remedy the lack of an MRI at GMH and ensure Guam has a PET scan. Well, they asked for the first bill, but that's a credible answer. But I wonder what happened to the Mandatory Medical Malpractice Reform Act. Remember what a hot potato that was? I even submitted my own proposed legislation for it. And it was really hot, and then Therese just dropped it and walked away from it, meaning that she probably won't get the vote of David Lebowski. Abortion. What do you think about abortion, Therese? Guam law already prohibits abortion except under limited circumstances. There were no abortions reported in 2020 and only 6 were reported in 2021. Yet, since the Supreme Court's recent decision to place abortion restrictions clearly at the discretion of each state and territory, there is an effort by some to put additional restrictions on abortion on Guam. This is a very polarized. Yeah, did you know that, Jose? It's a very polarizing issue.
This is a Guam election. Why is she talking about the North Pole? Yeah, you're right. It is, but it's yeah. And the last part of her sentence also concerns me.
And then she says Guam law already prohibits abortion except under limited circumstances. Well, she forgot about what Levin didn't do, apparently, because Levin didn't embrace the Indiana rule and says that that Bell's law is null and void, whereas at least there's an argument that it isn't. Then Therese goes on to say, it's a very polarizing issue if treated broadly, but I believe this must be treated looking specifically at the language of any proposal and ensure that it is fully vetted by all people of Guam, especially women. Don't the ancestral landowners don't they have to vet it?
Yeah, that's in the language too.
Yeah. No, that's not an answer, Therese. It's not an answer at all. That's like saying, it's a polarizing issue, and I think that if we're going to pass a law on it, we must obey all the rules for passing laws. Oh, that's a great, to me, this means I don't want to answer the question because it's going to cost me votes, but I really am pro-abortion. That's exactly the way I read it. You don't get my vote, Therese, on that one. Then we've got Vince Bora, a Republican from Barragata. Vince is a George Washington High School 2001 graduate. He's got a bachelor's in business from UOG, a master's in biz ed, and master's in leadership from Grand Canyon University. I wonder where Grand Canyon University is. At the bottom of Grand Canyon?
At the Colorado River.
Yeah. I guess...
You got to take a bureau to class.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? A donkey?
A donkey. A burro.
Burro.
Yeah. Yeah. Ferdy Grofé, right? You remember that one? That song? Yeah, so anyhow, he's been to Grand Canyon University. And right now he's studying for a doctorate in organizational leadership at North Central University. Well, I give him credit for one thing. He's certainly come up with a couple of universities that nobody's ever heard of. Good thing he got his bachelor's at UOG. His occupation, career teacher, Bishop Baumgartner, Simon Sanchez. He was a policy consultant for Senator Frank Blanche Jr. That's a black mark. Anybody who's ever worked as a senatorial employee, no. All you're going to do is learn a lot of bad habits, etc. He's the owner of GU Digital Marketing Agency. He's a mentor and a coach in Level Up Consulting. He's executive director of John Maxwell Company, an adjunct professor, university, program support manager, Northrop Grumman Corporation, logistics and resources manager, U.S. Army Veterans Outreach Coordinator, West Care Pacific Islands intern, Guam Visitors Bureau supervisor, and Easy's Bar and Grill. He's got all of these jobs. No wonder I've never heard of him out on the campaign trail. I wonder if the guy ever sleeps. His first bill, Guam Teachers Rise Act. Respect, increased support for legislature. This bill will provide funds for teachers that will cover classroom materials, instructional supplies, and equipment. This will allow teachers to purchase through electronic or local store accounts instead of giving stipend or some sort of tax credit. Well, that's a good idea. Back in the 28th, there was a bill called the Teachers Appreciation Act that would have provided a tax credit for teachers who spent up to $500 of their own money on stuff. And what is your stance on abortion? He says, I am pro-life. Good enough. Then we've got Roy Anthony Kinata. As of November 8th, he's 26 years old. Wow. The youngest person ever elected to the Guam legislature was one Kurt Moylan, 25 at the time. And since Kurt came along, as I've explained to Jim, the name Moylan is political dynamite. It's a good political name. Kurt was the youngest elected senator. He was the last appointed secretary of Guam, first elected lieutenant governor of Guam, ran for the first chair himself, came up a little short. This is a story on Roy. He graduated from Simon Sanchez in Jigo. He joined numerous clubs and held leadership positions such as president of the Chamorro Club, president for the Sharks, a Maid Dance Club, secretary and community liaison, lead for your mark. Yeah, that's a pretty impressive background. His experience, he's been a legislative aide to Tommy Morrison. Bad news. He has been in the AmeriCorps program at the Judiciary of Guam. He's been the executive director of the Micronesia Community Development Corporation. He was a legislative aide in the 36th Guam legislature. He was liaison to Senator Amanda Shelton. So not only does he have the black mark of working for senators, he's a switch hitter. He worked for a Republican and then for a Democrat. Not good news. Public service. Homatak Municipal Council. Guam Diamonds Lion Club. Guam Youth Congress, another black mark. His first bill. Our island residents have been frustrated with ongoing stray dog population and feral pigs. If elected, I would introduce a bill that will give the Department of Ag more resources to deal with this problem. Using funds from the Workforce Development Fund, we should establish a boot camp that will promote skilled labor and trade industry, specifically in welding. The boot camp could support Guam DOA by providing it with new cages for animal control. These cages can also be used to capture the wild pigs ravaging our yard and ruining our communities. Well, at least he's talking about a bill or two bills.
Maybe he can stick the war hogs on them.
The war hogs, yeah. He talked to the Air Force for liaison, right? What is your stance on abortion? Pro-choice. If elected, I will be sure to protect a woman's right to choose to kill a helpless, innocent human. I believe abortion services should be treated equally to any other medical service we offer on island. Government should not restrict any medical service that will promote the health of its people.
Wait, what?
I don't see how killing a helpless, innocent human helps the...
Again, first, do you understand what an abortion does?
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for you, Roy. You had about four black marks there coming down the list. Then we've got Tello, who is 62 as of November 8. George Washington, 1978. University of Guam, Fayetteville College, North Carolina, paralegal program. She's established two businesses, Telephoto School Portraits and Graduate Inc. She's a certified insurance agent, received congressional recognition for an environmental nonprofit, Suabe Natasi. Certified tennis instructor. Tennis, anyone? Yeah.
It's the next one.
Director, Bureau of Women's Affairs. Well, to her credit, at least she didn't do anything when she was a director, which is a lot better than what we got now. All right, let's head for Wrigley Field in the seventh inning stretch.
Half a day. I'm former Senator George Pomba. Many of you remember my parents, George and Cecilia, with strong roots in both parties. I was also Chief of Staff under two Republican governors, including Felix Camacho. Working with Governor Liu and Lieutenant Governor Josh, I have seen up close the difference that they have made, their fairness and compassion during COVID, and strong fiscal discipline that turned our island's economy around and helped our island become stronger. Their vision for the future is bright, a diversified economy, improved infrastructure, and more opportunities for our people. You could not find any team more honest, hardworking, caring, or competent than Lou and Josh. In Guam elections, it's not only about party, it's about the people. I urge my friends and family to vote for Lou and Josh so we can keep Guam moving forward.
This is Governor Yuli Rivero, and I approve this message.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Okay, so here we are back again after the big seventh inning stretch in Wrigley Field. I'm just wrapping up Tello, and as soon as I finish with Tello, I've got another Joe on the line who wants to talk about Bell Areola's law. So when it comes to abortion, Tello says, I always choose life. I believe that the government must protect women's access to health care and provide services, including medical care and mental health support for women who lack access to safe and affordable services. Wouldn't you advocate the same thing for men, Tello? Why would women be treated differently than men?
They have to identify as a woman first.
I suppose. I think if you'd have just stopped with, I always choose life, you'd have been better off. Okay, let's see what another Joe wants to tell us, or wants to ask us about Bell's Law. Go ahead, another Joe.
Yeah, Bob. So Bell Areola's law, Public Law 20-134,
cites examples where abortion would be allowed, which is, I think, rape and the health of the mother.
No.
No?
No. Only the health of the mother. No rape, no incest.
Okay, so the health of the mother. Is that an acceptable perspective for the pro-life movement?
Should it be any other way? If you start out with the proposition that it's always wrong to take the life of a helpless, innocent human being, how do you come up with the exception?
Oh, so the law states the health of the mother. That's not an exception.
Yeah, that's the only one.
So that's an acceptable compromise then.
I would have to say so. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that the pro-aborts use as a leading card, but the occurrence is almost statistically insignificant, where a doctor has to abort a baby in order to save the life of the mother. It's way down in the fractions of a percent.
It stops the Dems from attempting to push that cart or envelope further and further about find different ways to justify killing babies. But I thought I'd ask. Thanks for your time.
Okay, and then of course you can't talk about abortions without going to attorney Vanessa Williams, who is the face and voice of abortion on islands. Here's what she tells us. It's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. It's just not that important. If we wanted to go on vacation, we wanted to quit a job, start a job, every other choice is just as important as the choice as to whether or not to kill that helpless, innocent human. And that really, when you scrape the paint and varnish off it, that's what all the pros are telling you. What they're saying is this, being pregnant is hard, and it takes a lot of a woman, and raising children is hard, and it would be really inconvenient for me to do that. I don't want to do either one, so the answer for me is to kill that helpless, innocent human inside my body, and then spend the time that I save rationalizing with stuff like a woman has a right to deal with her own body. The government has no business dealing with my on and on and on, all of which don't answer the question and can't answer the question. Okay, back to the candidates here. Next, we've got Sarah Thomas Nettydog, who was 66 on November 8th. She has a bachelor's in psychology and sociology, a master's in public administration, and she's pursuing a doctorate in human services. Occupation, human resource manager. Experience, 45 years in various nonprofit and governmental organizations. Taught at Guam Community College and the Police Academy and the University of Guam. Public service, gubernatorial appointments to the Parole Board, Hospital Board of Trustees, represented Guam on the Pacific Island Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, and on the Pacific Islands Development Forum. The first bill is the Poverty and Homeless Prevention Act of 2023. This act would address the precursors or causal factors that lead our people to poverty and homelessness. I would develop a comprehensive plan to reduce and prevent these critical social issues by bringing together the diverse segments of our community, including those who were formerly homeless. She's hit all the buzzwords, but I don't know what her legislation is going to look like. All right. Stance on abortion. I believe in protecting life at all stages and that education and prevention methods are vital strategies needed to prevent unplanned pregnancies. I would work toward increased sex education, including reproduction, contraception, and other preventive strategies, as well as addressing the psychological and interpersonal aspects of incest, sexual abuse, and domestic violence. So what do you think, for or against?
You know what? This answer is actually better than that first one we read a couple months ago, which was very vague. This one I think is a lot better. I'm going to say I'm for.
All right.
But yeah, only because no, I'm not going to mention the other second paragraph. I do want to say she said something about addressing the psychological and interpersonal aspects of incest, sexual abuse, and domestic violence. Somebody did pose while you were gone this question to me when I was talking about abortion without exceptions, about the psychological damage of rape victims and incest victims. And I kind of connected it to, why is it that we won't provide help to those victims, yet we talk about all the other psychological help we provide for other victims or other things, including postpartum depression and everything else for mothers.
Yeah.
That can be included. So
Should be.
The exceptions don't make any sense because they're not lost causes.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jose. That came up during my absence, huh?
Yeah, a caller brought that up. It was a good call.
Okay, we go on to the next section of the Daily News here. And let's see, I've got, I think it's this one. I've got Sandra Regis-Seo, who is a Republican from Molesu. She'll be 49 on November 8th. She went to Austin Peay State University, police science, at Fort Campbell High School, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Sounds like an Army brat, huh?
She is indeed.
Yeah, good for you, Sandra. Experience. Server, Jeff's Pirates Cove, 2021 to the present. Good place to work. If you can work at Jeff's, that shows me you got some moxie. Good for you, Sandra. And then she worked for the Aloha Council of the Boy Scouts of America, District Executive of Chamorro Boy Scouts, Operations Manager at Sam's Club, Personnel Banker Assistant Manager at Wells Fargo, and Accounting Supervisor, Sam's Club. So she got some good commercial experience there. Public Service, Events Corporator, as you were coordinator, GY 671 Boy Scouts Den Leader, base-to-base walk-run events, organized food drive and distribution to FestPac delegates, T-ball coach at Anderson. First bill she wants to pass. If there are any violations to court order, that is an automatic imprisonment until hearing trial is over. Harsher sentencing guidelines if found guilty of any violent crimes against people, child abuse, sex crimes, domestic violence, and murder. Yeah, that's a real answer. So what she's saying is that if you are released on bail and you violate any of the conditions of your bail, you go straight to the pokey. Now, there may be a constitutional problem with that. The Eighth Amendment says no cruel or unusual punishments or excessive bail. So it may, it could be that, that the one of the conditions of release is that you report to a pretrial services officer every morning or every Monday at 10 a.m. and you have a car problem, you don't get there until 1. Well, technically you violated your release. But anyhow, these are responsive answers, so good for you, Sandra. As far as abortion, I am pro-life. I will support having no clinics on island and no access to telemedicine for abortion. Good for you. You came out and told it. Then we've got Angela Santos, who will be 42 on November 8th. She went to Guam Community College, got an adult high school diploma in 1999, an early education certificate, some finance courses at GW. She's a community liaison at the office of Clinton Rigel. Whoa. I didn't think we'd get a chance to vote for Clinton since he's not running for re-election. But here's your chance. She learned everything she knows from Clint Rigel. All right, she's She's a clothing sales representative for Guahan Soldier, a carver of traditional Chamorro jewelry, apprentice under master carver, CPA assistant for Herman Santos, photographer for Cocos Island Sato Corporation, a newspaper delivery person. Well, that's pretty good experience. She's had experience in the media, Jose. A newspaper deliverer. Program facilitator for mental health outpatient services, a teacher's aide, and Tender Shepherd Preschool in 2000. She's an advocate for independent Guahan. Okay? Another reason not to vote for Angela Santos. She's a supporter of Proteji Latexan, commissioner for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Wow. And let's see. A Guma Bami board member from 2018 until now. In their first law, I want to look at the law governing the Chamorro Land Trust and work with the people and the CLT Commission and personnel to reform the law. It will take a lot of work just to correct what has been taken from the Chamorro people and provide for the future generations. I have the knowledge and experience as a former commissioner in the CLTC and know what the land trust faces, knowing where it's been and how to envision it to be. It is a legacy of my brother, the late Angel Santos. Yeah. I can find a lot of good reasons not to vote for her. Let's try her on abortion. My stance is pro-choice. I believe that I do not have a say in what a person should or should not do with their body. The standard talking point instead of an answer. Okay, let's head for Churchill Downs.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tuman location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Of a day, I'm Senator Chris Dueñas. We've gone from a viral pandemic to a drug epidemic. It is time to stand up the multi-agency unified law enforcement group to stem the flow of drugs and combat crime with force. Maulik is not just another task force, it is a program focused on stopping the distribution of meth and opioids, as well as placing enough police officers patrolling our streets. It is time to make Guam Maulik again.
Re-elect Senator Chris Dueñas. The fight continues.
I am Chris Dueñas, and I approve this message.
So I've got Thomas Fisher, who's on the list next for me to evaluate. But before I do that, I've got Johnny Utah all the way from Salt Lake City. And Johnny wants to talk about Twitter and then Brazil. So tell me about Twitter, Johnny Utah.
Well, Elon Musk tweeted about 4 hours ago that what he's proposing he's going to do is, if you want to file a complaint on Twitter about someone that has offended you, you have to pay $8.
Go ahead.
So on Twitter, there's a huge population of people that have these blue check marks next to their name that have been verified. We call it the woke check mark in the Twitterverse. And those people are the ones that are constantly filing complaints against someone that said something conservative or something that they don't like. And it's a really simple, easy process to file a complaint against someone. And the way that he's looking, the way Elon Musk is looking at combating the censorship on Twitter is, okay, well, the way I'm going to shut it down is I'm going to charge all of the liberals who are complaining $8 every time they complain.
What do you think of that? What do you think of it, Johnny?
Well, I think it's a good idea because conservatives don't file complaints. We just keep presenting facts and engaging in the conversation on social media. We just continue to present the argument, present the bite, and say this is what it is, you know. And eventually, the person that is wrong, which almost 99% of the time it's the liberal Democrats, they get upset, start threatening you, cussing you out, and then next thing you know, they file a complaint, and then the leftist entrenched employees of Twitter or Facebook or wherever look at the details and say, oh, here's the liberal and here's the conservative. You know, hatch the conservative. So Elon Musk is looking at it like, I don't want to have a bunch of lawsuits from firing every single employee at Twitter, so I'll just get rid of their jobs by not having a department for them because there won't be any complaints because nobody's going to pay $8 to file a silly complaint on Twitter.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of leaving it open. If people want to complain, then let the marketplace of ideas be the sanction. I don't like the idea that, that we're going to charge a premium for people who take their disagreement to a different level.
Well, no. The disagreement is not in the open marketplace of ideas. The complaint is a formal complaint.
I know exactly what it is, Johnny, but what I'm saying is if there's a complaint, then the complaint should be entertained on Twitter like everything else, and there's no official sanction meted out for complaints. Anybody who wants to post, posts, and the winner will be the one who comes up with the most persuasive posts. I don't see the idea of fining someone because he takes issue with something that of some other post.
Right, but these are people that are filing an official complaint to Twitter, and
so you do away with official complaints.
Well, that's a good idea. There you go. That's another avenue of doing it. But the problem I think that he's having is that the media and the woke corporate America is hatcheting all their financial support to him right now, and their advertisement through their advertisements because they want to destroy what he's trying to do there. Well, so he's looking at it as a way to make money, I guess.
Yeah, well, okay. Tell me about. You want to tell me about something else too, Johnny?
Well, Brazil. So, yeah. So I'm on a couple other platforms that are not censored or sanctioned by the woke media and the woke world, and Rumble is the only one in the United States that's presenting this right now. YouTube has knocked all of the posts that have came up on it, but it appears that there is some kind of a possibility that there might be a military coup in Brazil with the election that happened down there because there's millions and millions and millions of people rioting. No, well, they're not rioting. They're protesting. They're actually protesting civilly. There is blockades in every state, I guess, except for 2 states in Brazil. All highways are shut down by the trucking industry there, by the truckers, and it's all out of protest because they claim that this president that they elected is not the president that they voted for.
The
point. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have the feeling we've seen that movie before, don't we?
Well, except in this case, there's some videos coming out in the last couple hours of military mobilization, and they seem to be on the side of the people, and everyone's cheering for them.
Well, that's the Latin American way of doing politics. When the system gets too far out of control, the military steps in and tries to put the ship back on course. It happens all the time in Latin America.
Well, except that Latin America, Banana Republic. What's everyone calling the United States right now? A banana republic. They're comparing us to be beneath them. I saw an interview with the president of El Salvador with Tucker Carlson the other day that was very impressive. The way that he's handling his country and his economy and the social agendas that are attacking the fabric of what his country is about and what he's trying to do there. And it's not fascism and it's not communism. It's straight up